Picture this. You're a banker at a major Wall Street firm. A document lands on your desk. It says a shipment of 50 million worth of electronics is moving from Shanghai to Los Angeles. Everything looks perfect. Official stamps, shipping manifests, warehouse receipts. You approve the financing, the money transfers. Here's the problem. That shipment doesn't exist. The warehouse is empty. The electronics were never manufactured. You just paid $50 million for air. The guy who did this, he did it 32 times. His name was Ng Lap Seng, and by the time the FBI caught him, he'd moved $1.6 billion in goods that never existed. Before we dive in, you need to understand how international trade actually works. Because this isn't complicated, that's exactly what made it so dangerous. Every day, trillions of dollars worth of goods move across borders. iPhones from China, coffee from Brazil, cars from Germany. But the seller in China doesn't trust the buyer in America. Different countries, different legal systems. So banks created something called a letter of credit, basically a promise. The buyer's bank tells the seller's bank, we guarantee payment once these goods ship. Here's how it works. And Apple orders 1 million phone screens from a factory in Shenzhen. JP Morgan issues a letter of credit promising payment once the screens arrive in California. The factory ships the screens, hands over documents proving shipment, and gets paid. Everyone's happy. Now here's the critical part. Nobody actually verifies the goods exist. The banks trust the documents because checking every single shipment physically, impossible. The system processes millions of transactions daily. Ng Lap Seng understood this better than almost anyone on Earth. In 2013, this Macau billionaire discovered he could create fake documents that looked so legitimate. Banks would wire hundreds of millions without questioning anything. Fake shipping manifests for steel that was never forged. Fake warehouse receipts for electronics that were never manufactured. Fake bills of lading for cargo ships that never left port. He'd walk into a bank with these documents and say, I need trade financing for this shipment. The bank would see official stamps, tracking numbers, everything looking right. They'd wire the money, except the goods didn't exist. The warehouses were empty, the shipments were ghosts. And he did this 32 times to different banks in different countries. By 2015, Ng had moved $1.6 billion through the scheme using shell companies with boring names like Sun Kian Ip Group, the kind you'd gloss over in a financial document. The brilliance wasn't complexity. It was simplicity. He didn't hack anything. He just understood that the entire $10 trillion global trade system runs on trust. And trust is shockingly easy to fake, but Ng wasn't just running one scam. He was running 3 simultaneously. Layer 1, the fake goods. He'd create paperwork for massive shipments, $50 million in copper wire, $80 million in steel beams, $120 million in consumer electronics, all fake, but the documents looked flawless. Layer 2, the shell company carousel, he didn't use one company, he used dozens. Each shell company would trade with another shell company he also controlled. On paper, it looked like legitimate business between independent entities. This created the illusion of real economic activity. Layer 3, the political cover. While this was happening, Ng was buying legitimacy. He donated to political campaigns. He developed real estate projects, including the UN Towers in New York. He hosted charity dinners with UN officials and former government leaders. This wasn't ego, this was strategic. When you're moving $1.6 billion through the banking system, you need people to believe you're legitimate. The real estate projects were actually happening, which made the fake shipments seem even more real. And here's what makes this terrifying. This exact scheme is happening right now. The International Chamber of Commerce estimates that trade-based money laundering moves $2 trillion annually. That's bigger than the GDP of Canada. That's more than Facebook, Apple, and Tesla combined, and most of it never gets caught because the system is designed to trust, not verify. Every perfect con dies the same way. Greed. Ng had built an untouchable empire. He could have kept going for decades. But in 2013, he made one fatal decision. He got involved in politics. He wanted to build the UN Towers in New York and needed political influence. So he allegedly paid $1.3 million in bribes to John Ash, the former president of the UN General Assembly. Here's what Ng didn't realize. The FBI doesn't care about fake shipping manifests. That's white-collar crime, civil penalties. But bribery of a UN official, that's a federal crime. In 2015, the FBI started investigating the bribery case. They traced payments back to Ng's companies. Then they started looking deeper. That's when the house of cards collapsed. Investigators found the shell companies, the fake letters of credit, the phantom shipments, the $1.6 billion moving through banks that should have caught this years earlier. And here's the terrifying part. The fraud was only discovered by accident. If Ng hadn't bribed that UN official, he might still be operating today. The banks hadn't caught him. The regulators hadn't caught him. The compliance systems designed to prevent this, they had all failed. September 2015, JFK Airport, Ng steps off his private jet. FBI agents are waiting. They arrest him on the tarmac. His lawyers argued he was a legitimate businessman caught in bureaucratic overreach, that this was political persecution, and some people believed it, because that's how good his cover was. But the prosecutors had the documents, the fake shipping manifests, the shell company records, the money trails through multiple countries. In 2018, Ng Lap Seng was convicted. The sentence? 4 years in federal prison, 4 years for a $1 billion fraud scheme. Meanwhile, people get longer sentences for drug possession. The system valued those fake shipments at less than most violent crimes. This isn't just a story about one criminal. This is about why the system is fundamentally broken. The blind spot problem. When you move goods internationally, multiple banks get involved. Bank A in China, Bank B in America, Bank C in Hong Kong. No single bank sees the complete transaction. Nobody verifies the goods actually exist, because that's someone else's job, except it's nobody's job. The speed trap. International trade moves at incredible speed. Banks compete on how fast they can process transactions. Every hour of delay means a competitor might steal the deal. So compliance checks get faster, verification gets lighter, trust becomes the default. The paper problem. Even in 2025, most international trade still runs on PDFs, scanned signatures, and emailed invoices. Creating fake documents is shockingly easy. You can hire designers online to create official-looking stamps for maybe $10,000. Ng spent more on bribing officials than creating the fake paperwork. The punishment gap. Ng got 4 years for $1.6 billion in fraud. The banks paid some fines, but nobody went to jail. No executives lost their jobs. Compare that to street crime. Rob a bank for $5,000? You're looking at 10-15 years. The system is telling would-be criminals. The risk-reward ratio is insanely good. Remember that $2 trillion in trade-based money laundering happening every year? That's enough to fund the entire U.S. Department of Defense for 2 years. That's approximately 2% of global GDP just disappearing into fake trade transactions. There are probably dozens of Ng Lap Sengs operating right now, some in Africa, some in Southeast Asia, some in South America, all using the same playbook. So what happens next? Some companies are building blockchain-based trade finance platforms where every shipment gets verified in real time. Sounds revolutionary, but only about 5% of global trade has adopted these systems. Because changing a $10 trillion industry is like replacing the engine of a plane while it's flying. Some banks are deploying AI to detect fraudulent patterns. This works sometimes. But sophisticated fraudsters are also using AI to create better fakes. It's an arms race. You know what actually catches most trade fraud? Human intuition. An experienced compliance officer who thinks, wait, something feels off. But banks are cutting staff, replacing humans with automation. Here's the real lesson. Complexity is the enemy of oversight. The more complicated the system, the easier it is to hide fraud. But we can't make the system simple. Global trade requires complexity, so we're stuck in this paradox. The system needs to be complex to function, but that complexity makes fraud almost inevitable. Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is running this exact scheme. They've learned from Ng's mistakes. They're not bribing UN officials. They're staying under the radar. They're using cryptocurrency to make tracking harder. They're using AI to create better fakes. and they'll keep operating until they make that one fatal mistake. The system hasn't changed. The punishment hasn't increased. The vulnerabilities are still there. Ng Lap Seng sold air to Wall Street. He proved it could be done. He proved the system would let you get away with it for years. He proved that even when you get caught, the punishment is manageable. That's not a cautionary tale. For some people, that's an instruction manual. $2 trillion in fake goods move through the banking system every year. That means 1 in every 5 international trade transactions might be completely fabricated. Your iPhone might not exist. Your car might be a phantom. Welcome to modern finance.